Hello everyone, this is StoryMan-Jack. This story is kind of special to me. I've never actually written a spy story like this before. It is a kind of parody / homage to James Bond that I wanted to kind of honor Sean Connery. He was so important to many of us in movie and TV as we were growing up in the 80s and 90s. So I sit back, keep an open mind, and I hope you enjoy it. The Asset, a StoryMan-Jack original story. For Sean Connery, for there can be only one. The Scotsman really wasn't paying attention to the cards or the action on the table. He was just waiting. Glancing up, he longed for the bar, but he had to be out in the open to be seen. "I call," he said in a crisp Scottish brogue, and added 3 5-grand chips into the pot. His opponent, wearing an Armani suit, smiled and winked. "Straight," he called, throwing the cards on the table. The Scotsman looked down at his cards and met the older man's eyes. His narrowed. Not a word did he say as he laid the royal flush down in front of his opponent. "The win goes to the Scotsman," the dealer exclaimed. His opponent's face turned red and he stood. "How is that possible?" The Scotsman smirked and shrugged. "I'm wearing my lucky kilt." "May I have your name, sir?" The man was obviously American, which figured. "Blair. Roland Blair." A slim hand rested on Roland's shoulder. "I've been waiting for you, my dear," he said, without even any visible surprise that the woman had showed. "Would you care for a drink, Mr. Blair?" the young lady's voice asked from behind him. The American shook his head in disgust. "Do we have a problem, sir?" Roland asked, gathering his chips. "Not if you go with a woman and leave this table," he said, calming and sitting back down. Roland laughed, standing. "The way you play, I'm not sure it would help." He turned to his newly arrived young lady. "Shall we, my dear?" and offered his arm. She took it and led him to a small corner table next to the bar, out of the way. She smirked. "I like the kilt," she said. Her glowing dark skin only accentuated her beauty. "I appreciate it. Miss King, I presume?" He looked her up and down and noted she looked more like an MMA fighter than a high society lady. All muscle and grace, her dark eyes shone with intelligence. "Mrs. King, Mr. Blair," she smiled. Roland raised an eyebrow. "Would you care for me to change your mind about that?" Her smile was brilliant. "Have a seat, Mr. Blair. We need to talk." "Indeed," Roland said, sitting. "But please, it is Roland." Nodding, she said, "Fatima," and sat. The waitress approached and asked, "May I get you a drink?" "Whiskey, the Scottish way. 21-year Glenfiddich if you have it," Roland said. "Same," Fatima said. "Ah, a woman after my heart," Roland smiled. Making sure the waitress was gone, Fatima slid a single, small, silver key across the table. "The information is in the box this belongs to." He made it disappear into his breast pocket with hardly a twitch. "Where?" "Oh, You're a smart man, Mr. Blair. I'm sure you can figure that out for yourself. Before he could respond, the waitress came back with their drinks. Roland smiled and gave her one of the chips he'd won. Keep the change, young lady. The waitress, in her mid-20s, turned whiter than her already cream-colored skin would have had. Sir, this is $5,000. Roland took a deep sip of his scotch and turned his eyes to the young lady. It's good scotch. The waitress staggered away in shock. Roland watched her go with appreciation. You are awful free with the government's money, Mr. Blair, Fatima said. We Blairs are known for such, he smirked, clearly referring to the former PM. It's almost time for me to go, Fatima said, draining her drink like a pro. Why in such a hurry? Roland asked. Mr. Blair, I am well aware of your reputation. It will not work on me, she smiled. He leaned back in feigned shock. Why? Is that a challenge, Mrs. King? Fatima laughed and stood. Good day, Mr. Blair, and then walked away. Disappointed, he eyed his empty glass. As the woman left, the waitress returned, her smile warm, handing him a second glass. She said, Sir, this one's on me. I thank you. Roland smiled. The redhead was certainly beautiful and young. Here, he said, handing her a plastic card. My name's Roland. What's this? She asked. A room key, he said. Use it if you want. He drained the drink and stood, placing the empty glass back on the tray she carried, and turned. It's room 007. She giggled. My name's Candy. Roland waited until he was out of earshot before he murmured under his breath, I certainly hope so. Several hours later, Roland stood in front of the window, the beautiful young waitress sleeping quietly in his bed. He pulled out a small flip phone. The number dialed automatically. Yes, very proper voice asked over the phone. I need to speak with Mom. The line went quiet for a moment. Blair, you have the documents? I have a key. Can you have Artie do some research and find out what it belongs to? Roland asked as he held the key up before him, studying it. You're in a secure location, I take it, she asked. He shrugged. In my room at the casino. I swept it for bugs. And the woman, is she gone yet? Mum's voice asked. He looked back over at the snoring waitress. What woman? God damn you, Roland. We have discussed this. It had better not be Mrs. King. You need to stop sleeping your way across the continent. He touched his chest. Can I help it if I'm irresistible? The person called Mum gave up. What's on the key? Anything? The code is 4657 RBS, he informed. I assume it is a key to a deposit box. Yes. The system came back with Switzerland. Royal Bank of Switzerland. Book me a flight, he asked. Done. The asset will meet you at the bank. The private jet is fueling up now. The line went dead, and he snapped the phone closed. After a few moments of staring out the window, he turned. The young waitress lay beautifully in a peaceful sleep upon the bed. I do love every single one, he said with a smirk. He left her there with a note and his entire bankroll, around 40,000 pounds in chips. Had a lovely evening, was all the note said. The bank was one of the oldest in Switzerland. He entered and pulled his sunglasses off. He didn't have to figure out who the asset was, he'd met her. She approached him with a sober face. We have to hurry. Well, it's nice to see you again, Fatima, Roland said. I'm being followed. We need the documents yesterday. My testimony won't be worth shite if we get caught. And her face was filled with anxiety. Let's go, Roland said, and he followed as she approached the desk. Roland handed the guard at the security desk the key. The security guard looked at the key and picked up his phone. Someone will be with you shortly, sir, he said. Another gentleman came along and took the key and escorted them into a private room. They stood alone before a table with a large metal box and waited for the bank official to unlock the box with his biometric scan so the key could be used. Without a single word, the man scanned the thumbprint and left. Finally, Roland said, as he sat and opened the box. He pulled out the brown folder filled with documents, an accordion-style job. He rifled through the first few pages, scanning quickly. China, he grunted in satisfaction, as if he'd expected it. A loud click sounded, and Roland looked up to find Fatima King holding a small gun in his face. Hand them over, she said. Well now. This is a dilemma, is it not? He asked and leaned back. I take it you aren't really my asset. She shook her head. Give me the documents, she demanded again, or I'll put a bullet in your pretty face. Blair leaned back in his chair and smiled. I should have known, since you declined my offer. My God, you are an arrogant prick, aren't you? She asked. We're not in the 1940s anymore, Blair. Call it an occupational hazard. It was then that the fire alarm went off, and an audible click locked the massive steel door. Roland Blair never even flinched. It was as if it was expected. What's going on? The woman asked. Roland laughed. Well, this isn't my first job, sweetheart. And you can't get away. How? She was confused. Declining to answer, instead holding his breath, he slammed his left wrist against the desk, smashing his watch face, and a green smoke boiled out of the device. The woman's eyes went wide and slowly succumbed to the gas, finally falling limply to the floor. He stood, looked down at the beautiful woman, and shook his head sadly as he placed his handkerchief over his face. Leaving the woman on the floor, Roland walked over to the steel door, locked, and pulled out his pen. Normally he'd just wait, but he knew that there would be more on the way. If they had taken out the asset and gotten her key, the laser cut into the lock with ease, melting the internal workings and breaking the lock. He dodged a few guards on his way out, but slammed to a halt when a beautiful orange Lotus screamed up to a stop at the curb just in front of him outside the bank doors. The door popped open, and none other than Candy the waitress sat behind the wheel. Get your ass in here. The stunned agent, Roland Blair, got in the car and slammed the door. I guess it really isn't a mission without a chase. The Lotus screamed to life, and in the rearview mirror, 2 black SUVs roared after them. Candy King, I presume? He asked. She kept her hands on the wheel. Agent King, CIA, United States. This is Mum's doing, he said with a smile. I love them all too, Blair. Look in the glove box. You'll find your money. I'm not a hooker. Gunshots rang off the obviously bulletproof glass of the back windshield. Roland relaxed, pulling a cigarette from his inside pocket and lighting it. So, where to? Home. He snorted. America? Texas. This is about the Chinese. And a bioweapon. We need to get to the University of Texas and talk to someone there. My territory. Well, if Mum sanctioned it, you're in charge, he said, and nodded off to the sound of bullets pinging off the bulletproof glass. I hope you enjoyed it. The Agent. Please give me some feedback. I would really love to have read this properly in the correct accents, but I'm no voice actor. I'm not a videographer or cartoonist. I am just a writer, and I'm trying to give you guys something nice. If you did enjoy it, I have a lot more ideas with this character, and maybe we could grow him together. So please, leave a comment. Tell me what you thought, where you think it should go. Let's have fun with it. I'm sure Sir Connery would love that. Thank you, and have a great day. This is StoryMan-Jack, and we hope you've enjoyed this program. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And please, most importantly, tell me, good or bad, what you thought about the video. We cannot grow as artists if we can't accept criticism. Again, thank you, and remember, your story is the most important story you will ever tell, so let's make it a great one. Have a great day.